afternoon. Today is October 6th. This is a meeting of the Board of Selectmen. This meeting is being audio and video recorded. Is there a motion to call the meeting to order?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first order of business is Ms. Labonte under appointments. I'm going to take the agenda out of order. We do have Kristen Flynn for some school updates on the CARES Acts and anything else Ms. Flynn would like to share with the Board of Selectmen. Welcome, Ms. Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Gaspar. Happy to be here to update you all on what's been happening at the school department since we last met. We finally have entered phase 3 of our reopening plan. We had a 3-phase plan. Briefly, phase 1, our faculty started on site on August 31st for professional development. We also had our students starting remote learning on September 16th. And additionally, some high-need students also started in the buildings as well. Phase 2 was September 21st to October 22nd. Again, we had faculty on site. Students were remote learning, and they each had a half day, each grade had a half day orientation to go over expectations, routines, and plans for the year. And again, our high-need students were on-site learning. Finally, phase 3, which began yesterday, we welcomed the rest of our students back to school. So it's really been exciting to see how all of our planning over the short summer, the short months of the summer, how it all worked out when we opened the doors to all the students yesterday. And we'll have another first day of school on Thursday for our other cohort. So this year we've had many, many first days of school. So right now in phase 3, and this is phase 3 is now and beyond until we have a full return to school of all students, all the time. So right now we have student cohorts participating in on-site and remote learning. Students are attending Monday and Tuesday or Thursday and Friday. They're learning remotely at home on Wednesdays. Faculty and staff are in the buildings Mondays through Fridays. On Wednesdays, they are doing office hours, any check-ins with students, and also PD every Wednesday. Kindergarten and grade 1 are on site all 4 days a week. And during this hybrid learning, we have purchased with some of our grants that we have available to us webcams, so we are live streaming the lessons. So our students are in front of the teacher, half the class, cohort A right now, today and yesterday, they're in front of the teacher. Cohort B is at home on their computers, learning the same lesson at the same time as cohort A. Then Thursday and Friday it will switch. So the students are having uninterrupted lessons. It's not like we're taking lessons Monday and Tuesday and repeating them for Thursday and Friday. Everybody's learning continuously throughout the week. So that's been, as you can imagine, it's a challenge. We're all, I'm sure all you folks in your positions and careers and the folks at the town hall, we're all learning how to do our work differently. And we're learning how to do our work differently very quickly and without any past experience to look on. So I can report to you that I've been in the buildings the past 2 days. It's very orderly. The students know what to expect. They seem to be, adapting to the change. We see them outside with their mask breaks throughout the day. Lunch looks a lot different. They can't sit together, of course, but they are still, having lunch, and hopefully at some point we can return the students when it's safe to do so. But for right now, we're really happy that all of our planning over the summer, has gone well so far. Of course, there's some things that we learn we need to adjust, but that's in any case, and we'll just go forward.
And Kristen,
yes.
The virtual schooling now, is that like the 3 hours a day? Is that continuous like the kids in school are getting? When you say
You're talking about the full remote, those students that are full remote.
Correct.
I'm not sure how long each school day is for the full remote students, again, because we have contracted out to TECA. So they're learning, they're still learning under the same curriculum standards and frameworks as all students in Massachusetts are. They might be learning it, at a different pace. I'm not sure.
But so the cohort was home for 2 days, is seeing the same thing, the students?
Correct, yes.
For the
yes.
3 hours or so? Or
It's a full school day.
Okay.
So the students are in school their regular school day. So they have their regular, whatever their schedule was. So the students at home are expected to sign in, come on board at whatever 8 something at the middle school, and the teacher takes attendance and the lesson goes on. And then there's breaks, of course, during the day. We have mask breaks because that allows the students to get outside, or in inclement weather days, spread out in the gyms and, take a little break from their mask because they're wearing it all day except when they're eating. And then the students at home are following the same schedule. They have lunch at the same time, and then when the students in the building resume their lesson after lunch, the students at home are expected to resume their lesson. So it's really the same thing, just taking place at their house on those 2 days.
And that's accessed through like a Zoom meeting on your Chromebook?
I believe they're using Google Classroom, so we're transitioning to Google Classroom, so they're using Chromebooks, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that brings me to my next point.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So right now we are a 1-to-1 district in grades 5 to 8, and what that means is that we have a device for each student to take home and use. So grades 5 to 8 all have been issued a school department Chromebook. Grades 2, 3, and 4 right now, if they need one, they've been giving an emergency loaner. We're still waiting for shipments of our Chromebooks to come in. I mean, there's just been, as you can expect, a worldwide shortage on Chromebooks, even though these were ordered back in June, we're still waiting. And then grades kindergarten and 1, they're in school 4 days a week. So right now they're learning in their classroom. So there's not that as much of a great need as in the other grades that we've prioritized. So hopefully we'll have our Chromebooks in that we can give out to grades 2, 3, and 4. At first they were expected in October, so hopefully the next time I come to see you, I can tell you that we've received them. So like I said, everything's going well with the school reopening. We, you expect some bumps in the road, so we expect that, but so far so good. So just a couple other updates for you real quick. I did give you the sheet that I've been using, the school department COVID-19 expenditures for reimbursement. So there's a few that we've added on. So just to tell you a little bit about how we're going about this is the school department receives the Coronavirus Relief Fund Department of Ed reopening grant, and that was about $300,000, and that's for reopening expenditures through December 30th. So we are using that grant first. I believe a few times ago I was here, it was discussed that the school would use their funds first, correct? So we are slotting the expenditures over to that grant as much as possible from now until December 30th. So we fully allocated that grant. So you're gonna see on your sheet, there's a column that I put town or CVRF, and that's how I'm kind of keeping track of where we're spending from. So in these expenditures, you can see, actually I updated it today, so mine actually lists a total of $143,806, so yours is probably a little bit less. I added a few on today that we just purchased.
Can you give me that number again, please?
So as of today, $143,806.04. So of that, what I have budgeted, so to speak, for the town right now is just under $114,000. And under the CVRF grant is about $31,000. Now what you don't see here that's coming out of the CVRF grant is also those salaries for the building-based subs, the custodians, and the TECA tuition up through December 30th, okay? Because that's what we can charge off to that grant. Now I understand with the town cares funds, it is also December 30th. So that presents kind of a big challenge for us because the bulk of our expenditures are coming from year-round things, like the subs, like the custodians, and the TECA tuition. So I think I told you the last time I was here that the challenge is going to be to continue to fund those past January 1st. So right now, I believe it's about $292,000 that we will have to fund, within the local budget or someplace else if we do not have a continuation of funds. So that's, that's to be determined, and, hopefully we can get some additional funds, or those end dates can be pushed forward more. So we will see. One thing about the expenditures that I just wanted to discuss, since the last time I was here, we finished our HVAC system troubleshooting and repairs. So we're right at just around $25,000 for the invoices I've received thus far. There may be a few others that are catching up. So we had all of our motors, belts, pulleys, any of the components to the HVAC system in both buildings checked to make sure that they're all operating.
Can I ask you
Yes.
a question on that, because I actually have it.
Mhm.
We spent $25,000 back on 8/3 for
Yes.
HVAC system equipment
Right.
assessment, and it looks like you have to be determined another $20,000 for the same thing, HVAC assessment with state qualified engineer.
Right, so it's the
What's
same
the deal
thing
with
but
that?
different. Okay, so the 25,000 bait from 8/3 that you're saying, that was to have the HVAC contractor, we use Advanced Air, they're on the state contract, come and take a look at all of the mechanical systems to make sure that everything is operating the way it should be, that we don't need to replace motors, we don't need to replace belts, fans, things like that. So they're they're working on the system. The thing on the second page that we said is the Department of Ed came out with a few different engineering consultants that could come, and they're more like architects and designers. They look to see if your system is designed properly for the size of your building, for any codes and things like that. So it's more like the designers and the architects studying to see if the building has been built or sufficient to current standards. Now, these buildings are, old, not too old, but somewhat old.
Mhm.
So we have reached out to some of these engineering consultants that were on the state list, and we haven't had a lot of success in hearing back from them, but we will persist at that. So really, they're just going to tell us whether our buildings are designed properly to meet the current code. But what we've done with that first 25,000 is just making sure that everything we have is working in working order and working properly. Okay.
Okay.
So that's
what
that.
was, yeah.
So the other thing that we've also purchased since the last time I was here, it's on the second page on my sheet. It is air purifiers. We got Jim Mara, our building inspector, sent us something from Eversource, which was an incentive for qualifying air purifiers. It would give you up to $200 per qualifying unit. So our facilities director, Steve Willett, took that and ran with it. He researched what would qualify, spent a lot of time discussed, back and forth, making sure that what we were going to buy fits what it is. So we have purchased 40 qualifying air purifiers. They're about $540 each. So with the incentive, they would be $340 each. We purchased 40. They're due to come in next week. And our plan for them is to deploy these purifiers, which we've already bought some from a different vendor, to areas without a window. And that's what we've already bought and had ready for when the staff came back, areas without a window, okay? The next priority would be areas with one window, and then the final priority would be areas with many windows. Now, we know from air quality experts that what you really want to do is a couple of things. Keep the windows open, right? We've all heard that. Be outside, keep the windows open. Make sure your univents are working correctly, which was part of having Advanced Air come in, and our custodians and facilities people, they cleaned the filters and changed the filters. And third, provide air purifiers. So we're on a good track to, with those recommendations. So once we get these 40 air purifiers in the next week or so, we will make sure that they are sufficient for our needs, they work well, and then we'll purchase some more. And that would be, I would anticipate that would come from the town CARES funds. I don't wanna say the downside, but the challenge with the air purifiers is the filters have to be cleaned or changed, regularly, so that's going to add time and expense. So that was just, time to the custodian's day, and expense if we're replacing filters. And I know the ones that we've already purchased, I tried to buy spare filters right away, and it's been somewhat difficult to find those. They're not in stock right now, but.
Kristen, are those
again, we'll
like
keep trying.
standalone units?
Yes, I believe so. The ones that we've purchased so far are standalone units, so they, could be like a big dehumidifier, right? Like about this big, depending on the size of the room.
I'm just wondering if, you have these portable air conditioners that are standalone,
Mhm.
but then the hose
Right,
is
it vents out.
retrofitted,
Mhm.
vents out.
Yep.
I don't know if that's something you've all looked into at all, but.
Not the air conditioners, no, but the air purifiers.
Yeah.
But it is a standalone unit. Yep.
Those filters, they have a shelf life on them, because most of those air purifiers usually have like dual filters, a regular filter, then like a HEPA filter.
These are HEPA filters, yes.
So do they have like, the manufacturer is gonna say replace filter every 30 days, every 60 days, every 90 days, or wash filter every 30 days, 60 days,
I
90
would
days?
suspect yes, because I know that there is like, you don't just plug it in and then forget about it. So there
Yeah.
is some
Yeah,
continuing.
well, with this, it's,
Yeah.
you're probably doing the cleaning or the changing more often.
Correct.
I know that
It's-
supplies pretty much on anything
Right.
is
So
is next to nil.
it's
and-
difficult. It's one of the many challenges. But like everybody else, we're doing the best we can to respond and react and to keep our students and our staff and anybody in our buildings as safe as possible.
Excellent.
So that's the update on that, and just a quick update on other school operations.
What's that noise? I'm
Just
sorry.
that's okay.
What's that noise? Is that the wall?
It's not me. It's my phone. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Just a quick update on a few other school operations as school opens that I thought would be important for you folks to know. School transportation. So school transportation looks different this year, of course. We have a maximum capacity of 25 students on each bus. We had to reconfigure the bus routes. And so right now, we have all of our students except we have one on a wait list as of right now who expressed that they wanted to take the bus. We sent out a survey in August to all families. Please let us know if you want to take the bus. If you don't respond, we'll assume that you don't need the bus because we had to start preparing our routes and base our routes based on who's going to be on the bus. It's no more the bus goes by on the corner of Main Street and Lawson Ave, and you show up and that's it. No, you have to we created bus passes for our students so that they could be identifiable to the bus driver within the first few days of school, and so they would know their new bus stop and time. So in case you get any concerns about buses, we've just had to rethink the way we do things. But right now, we only have one student on a waiting list because we do have a few buses that are at or near capacity. At the elementary school, we have 3 buses out of 10 at or near capacity for both cohorts. And at Ford Middle School, we have 2 buses near capacity in cohort B and 1 bus near capacity in cohort A. So we are reaching a point that some of the buses are at capacity. Now, once we go through the first 2 weeks of school, we may find that some families said, you know what, I'm gonna sign up for the bus just in case, but I do plan on taking my child. So if we find that consistently there aren't students riding the bus and we do have a waiting list for that bus, we may need to do some outreach and say, are you guys using the bus because we need that seat for someone else? So we're hoping that that's how we're going to clear the waiting list, okay?
At the last time you were here, you explained to us that the buses are being cleaned between stations. Like the Fairhaven High kids go there, and then it goes to the middle school and the
Correct.
elementary,
So-
and that we were paying $112,000.
That has changed. So
Okay,
after
alright.
I met with you guys, we talked about that at the school committee. And it was, of course, 100 and some odd thousand is a lot of money to clean the buses. So we pursued other options, and we are using our second custodian that comes in, the new custodian that we've hired, to disinfect the buses after the morning run and after the afternoon run. So in order to disinfect and clean the buses between runs, and I want to be, clear and open about this, the only option we would have really and truly had was to have that driver do it. And that was going to be the $100,000 cost, because the buses, some, maybe not all, but on average, the buses finish their high school routes. They don't return to the school, some of them don't. They immediately start their middle school route. And they have less than 15 minutes between the middle school and the elementary school. So we have 10 buses out, so it's about 5 minutes per bus. Our employees taking an hour to do all 10. So 5 minutes per bus times 10 buses with one person wasn't, the math is just not gonna work in between runs. So we are having our custodian that we've hired, we're using a current custodian because we're still down one custodian. We're still looking for that second custodian. Go on the buses at the end of the morning runs and at the end of the afternoon runs to clean and disinfect twice a day rather than 6 times a day. We did install hand sanitizing stations on the buses, so that's an additional, protection. So that's, what we're doing with the buses.
What's the difference in cost? So where did that $112,000?
I just took it right off that sheet. It was on the second.
phase one.
Right,
Yeah.
but were we funding that though at all?
What's that?
How was that being paid for at the time? Was
It's-
that just a proposal at the
That
time?
was just a proposal,
Okay.
correct. That was just a proposal, and I wanted to put it in there as a placeholder in case that was the plan that was, put forward. So the Department of Ed regulations state that you have to have a plan for cleaning the buses. It doesn't specify what that plan has to be, okay? So in terms of our facilities, our custodians and facilities director have been working tirelessly to prepare the buildings and grounds for reopening. A couple of things I just want to let you guys know that we've been doing that we're really proud of. We installed even more hand sanitizing stations. We had hand sanitizers on, just the little wall units, just about in every classroom. We've put some more in the hallways, at the entrances, at the lunchrooms, so the kids, when they come in, they sanitize their hands. When they go into the cafeteria, they sanitize. When they come out of the cafeteria, they sanitize.
Are they good about it?
They are, yeah. I mean, the adults are reminding them
Right.
right now, but I was in the lunches yesterday and today. And our students are very good. We are very lucky. We have very, good students. They are complying with what we're asking them to do. It's day 2, so we'll see as the year goes on. But so far, so good. We've been installing sensor faucets and flushometers. I think I've talked about that. And also we're just waiting for our paper towel dispensers. We're receiving a shipment. It actually just came in, and we're gonna put those up. So less opportunities for people to touch things. And that's what we're working with our second custodian that we hire. Our idea is that person is going to be going around and cleaning and sanitizing the high-touch areas. We're getting into our bathrooms more, except, it used to be as needed or definitely at the end of the night. That was a night shift thing. So now, as time permits, we're going to try to get into those bathrooms and clean them throughout the day, okay? I talked about purchasing the air purifiers, and I talked about how we've been troubleshooting and repairing the HVAC equipment, windows, the air purifiers. We purchased a few more of the electrostatic sprayers for our custodians to use, and that's what they're using on the buses to disinfect, and those are being used in the classrooms every night. So each custodian now has one. They used to share one in the past. And these pieces of equipment, I don't know if you found them here in the town, they're very finicky. They're prone to breaking down. So it's good to have some extra ones to make sure we have them. And finally, we hired one full-time custodian so far and one part-time. And we really need one more full-time custodian. We really need, due to the demands of the cleaning and the disinfecting during the course of the school day, we really need 2 people on in each building as opposed to 1 when the students and staff are in the building. So we've been advertising extensively since June, and we've not been able to find another one. It's very difficult. Right now, we have looked at temp agencies, so we're pursuing that. So that's one of our biggest challenges is time, is getting done what we need to get done in the amount of time that we have based on the students and staff schedules. We're also doing overtime on Saturdays. We're doing our deep cleaning on Wednesdays when the students are not in the building. The staff is in the building, so we have to plan around that, so that makes it a lot more challenging than if no one was in the building. You know, we're not at liberty to use some of the cleaners and disinfectants and chemicals that we normally would use in those spaces, so we're doing that on Saturdays as well. Finally, school nutrition. Can't remember if I told you guys, we have universal free breakfast and lunch through 12/31. I don't know if that will be extended, but that's what the feds are saying now. So that means any student can receive lunch and breakfast at school at no charge, okay? So that's good. The students are eating in the cafeterias and gymnasiums. That gives them the greatest distancing and provides for supervision rather than eating in the classrooms. I was in the cafeterias these past couple of days. The students are, acclimating to eating at eating at desks in the classrooms. I will say, on a normal school year, they'd be at their lunch tables like that. They'd be socializing, but that's just not possible this year. So they're acclimating. At dismissal, we're providing breakfast and lunch to-go bags for hybrid students to take home for the days that they're not in school. So they're getting a lunch and a breakfast every single day. And we're also preparing 5-day meal boxes to be picked up once a week for families of all virtual learners. So those students that are in the Tech Academy, they can sign up to get a lunch and they can pick it up once a week. And it's all shelf-stable food. I see my Board of Health friend up there, so it's all shelf-stable food. And finally, we've been awarded $31,190 in the Food Security Infrastructure Grant from the Commonwealth of Mass. And that's going to help with the cost of packaging that we need to send our lunches home and any equipment. Some of the lunches are brought to the cafeteria and the gym and given to the students at their desks. So we've had to purchase carts, different bags, sealing machines, things of that nature. And that grant is helping out with that. So I think that about sums it up for the school department news. Does anyone have any questions?
Chairman, I have one question. Thank you, Kristen. You've got a lot on your plate, and you guys are working through the process, and hats off to you for doing that. I just have a question more about the hybrid. So what's driving that is the lack of space?
Correct. Right.
So is there sort of a formula that would that dictates, right, so X amount of students times square footage equals.
Right, so I think on a very simple level, I believe the Department of Ed came out with sort of a math equation, as to how many students, and our principals went through that this summer. I was not involved in that process, so I can't speak, at length about that. But I would say in our classrooms, what we did on a very easy level is place a desk and mark off the 6-foot space around it, because we decided that we wanted 6 feet. Department of Ed says you have to have a minimum of 3 feet, but more is better, of course. So that kind of drove how many students we could have, right? Because at 6 feet, you can fit only so many desks in the classroom. We did create more classrooms for our grades K and 1, so we repurposed some of our specialists that had the proper certification to become grade K and grade 1, and they've been very, good about transitioning from being, say, the art teacher to becoming the kindergarten teacher or whatever the case may be. So we do have additional classrooms for kindergarten and grade 1 because we wanted to have them back in the building 4 days a week. I believe, that then the thought is the lower grade is the time that you really need to get those kids into school. Every day is better for everyone, of course. We would have liked to go up to, say, grade 2, but the space just didn't dictate it. And also what's driving it too is not just the classroom space, but also space on the school buses, right? Because you can only fit 25 kids on a bus. The bus is a 77-seat bus. We never had 77 kids on the bus. That would be 3 elementary kids to a seat. But some buses we did have had 40 to 50 students normally on that bus. Now we got to take that and cut that in half. And in our bus contract, we have 11 school buses plus a spare. So given the demands, if every school was going to say, now we need to, number one, buy more buses, there's just no possibility that there's enough buses everywhere for everybody to buy more. Buses are about $100,000 a pop, plus find drivers, which is already very difficult to find bus drivers. So those couple of things, the classroom sizes, the space that you have in your buildings, the transportation, those all factored into what was going to work. We knew, it was going to be very difficult to have all students back in the building. And what happened over the summer is that Dr. Bailey convened some working groups that focused on the physical learning spaces, the operations side, which would be facilities and transportation, the learning, the digital learning. So each administrator was the group leader, and we solicited input from other employees, parents, families, to meet with us to talk about looking at the Department of Ed guidelines that we had to go by, right, and how we could do it for our building. So that's why, people say, well, why can't everybody have the same plan? Well, everybody doesn't have the same size buildings. Example, we're very lucky that although I said our buildings are older buildings, compared to some buildings, say, school buildings in New Bedford, they're newer. So we have larger classrooms. So if we had an old schoolhouse, we'd be at a disadvantage, because where we can fit, say, 12 kids maybe in a classroom spread out, that might not be possible in an older building with smaller classrooms. So it's really a lot of factors. And keep in mind, these guidelines from the Department of Ed came out mid to late summer, and they were changing. So we constantly had to come up with a plan that was due early August, have it approved by the school committee, and be ready to roll it out before our students and staff came back in early September. So that was, obviously having all students in the buildings all together is ideal. It's just not physically possible right now for those factors I stated. But hopefully when it's safe to do so, we will be able to do so. Ultimately, I think, no one wants anything more than that. I mean, all of the plans and procedures and redos of things that we've had to do, and I'm sure you have for town hall reopenings and in your places of work, nobody wants to have to reinvent the wheel under less than ideal circumstances. So we'd like nothing better to have all our students back. It's been nice. I don't interact with the students as much in my position, but it certainly has been nice to see them, getting off the buses every morning and in the buildings.
Do you envision, or has it been discussed at all, the Wednesday, I know that's a deep clean day, but utilizing the night shifts for cleaning and then incorporating the Wednesday in as perhaps on a rotating basis, where cohort A 1 week would go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, cohort B would go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, utilizing that Wednesday to get more instruction for the students? Or is it, this is pretty much, what's the migration to eventually getting them there?
Right. So I think, as we go through, we just got our doors opened, and we're kind of seeing what's working, what's not working. Some things like that may be considered. Right now on Wednesdays, our staff is receiving PD to help them be able to do this different way of teaching. There's been a lot of PD on COVID-related subtopics, a lot of PD on digital learning. The way they deliver their lessons is a lot different. I mean, it's, I'm not a teacher, but I can only imagine how difficult it is at first to adjust to teaching your lesson to the kids in front of you, paying attention to your computer screen, getting those kids to pay attention while they're at home with perhaps a dog barking or a younger sibling or any number of distractions, and still provide quality instruction. So those Wednesdays are focused on delivering PD. We are adjusting the school calendar, because normally we would have days off during the school year for PD. So those days took place at the beginning of the year, and then there's ongoing professional development on those Wednesdays, in addition to office hours for staff, which means, working with students that might have specific questions, things like that.
Right.
So to answer your question, Dave, I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah, no, I'm just
but
curious.
That's something, to think about for the future. I think, from the start of this, we all hoped that every stage would be temporary. I mean, we hoped we'd be back in school full time, but that became evidently clear probably in June that wasn't going to happen.
Sure. Okay.
So
2 to 3 weeks, you don't remember that? 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, sure.
So that's all I have. Any other questions? No?
Nope.
All right, great.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Flynn.
you very much.
Thank you for the
Thank
update.
Good night.
Thank you, Kristen.
You're welcome.
And Ms. Flynn said that I would assume Mr. Correa's up in the birdhouse up there. If Mr. Correa wants to come down, we'll jump right down to Town Hall reopening plan. I've read it, confused on it.
Good evening, everyone.
So, wow, I don't know who drafted this off of what we've already decided we were doing. Based on the policy hinges on reliable reporting of the Commonwealth of Mass. So I was looking at this color-coded map and their things, if you wanna read it, so everybody at home understands what we're gonna be discussing, Mr. Correa. You have a copy of it?
I don't have it right in front of me,
So,
because I wanted to discuss a little bit about it.
I'll read through it real quick. Due to the many shifts in COVID-19 pandemic crisis and the guidance provided by the governor of Massachusetts, the town of Acushnet is implementing a policy to determine phases in order to continue to provide essential services while protecting employees and residents as much as possible. The Board of Selectmen has made the decision to utilize this policy. As such, effective on Tuesday, October 6, 2020, unless otherwise modified by the Board of Selectmen and until further notice, the following changes to our temporary reopening plans, Phase 1 and 2, will transpire. The policy hinges on a reliable reporting data that the Commonwealth of Mass has been collecting on a weekly basis. Every Wednesday at 4 p.m., I'm guessing it's 4 p.m., the state is releasing data relating to the average daily COVID-19 rate per 100,000 people in each city and town. And it gives a website to see. The online mapping tool uses color coding to indicate the average daily case rate per 100,000 in each community as follows. Gray, less than 5 reported cases total. Green, less than 4 cases per 100,000 people. Yellow, 4 to 8 cases per 100,000 people. Red, more than 8 cases per 100,000 people. Accordingly, the policy will utilize this data as a tool to indicate the level of caution that should be implemented in reopening the town as each week's numbers are updated. This is the funny part. If the town of Acushnet is currently presenting in the gray or green category, then Phase 2 will be implemented for that week, starting on Thursday and ending on the following Wednesday when new data is reported. If the town is currently presenting in the yellow or red category, then Phase 1 will be implemented for that week, starting on Thursday and ending on the following Wednesday when the new data is reported. Regardless of which phase we are in, the open hours remain 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. unless and until they are adjusted by the Board of Selectmen. This means every day, regardless of the phase, the treasurer collector's office only, that's what I'm seeing here, will be available to take payments either through the window or inside the building, and all other town services are always available to residents via appointment.
So we're working through this, right?
I'm a little confused.
Okay.
I'm a lot confused, to be honest with you. I think that's very confusing.
Yeah. So I think what you gotta think about here is that everybody in the town has been trying to work through how to provide the best possible services that we can to our residents, right? That's why we're here. And we haven't been through a pandemic before. That being said, there's an awful lot of things that we've done since this has happened in order to rewrite the way that we do things. Right now, rewrite the way that we service the residents. With one phone call, they pretty much can get anything practically delivered to the front door, and in some cases, even with me, I will go right to them if they need to. So will Jim, so will anybody else. We have some, well, you know, again, through the Board of Health, there's definitely, our major concern is the health and safety of everybody in town. And one of the things that we knew were gonna happen as the kids went back to school, and the community started to open and the restaurants opened, that there was gonna be an uptick in positive cases, and possible disruption is what this is about. Disruption comes from one positive case. I think we just found that out with the president. We found that out with the River's End, which has closed down because of some positives. We found that out with Cam Newton and the awful loss with New England Patriots. It's very disruptive when we get these positive things, so positive cases. And that is something that we've all, the entire staff, including the school, has been taking a look at in regards to being exposed over and over. Remember that close contact is a cumulative thing. It's not just you happen to be around somebody for 10 to 15 minutes and they were positive. It is if they're positive and you spend 2 minutes with them, and then you spend 2 minutes again, and then 5 minutes, and then 2 minutes within close contact, and you get to that 10-minute or 15-minute, that person is considered close contact. Now the positive goes home, all right? They have to isolate. They go home for 10 days. The close contact goes home for 14 days because you can't necessarily test, and the way that the guidelines are right now is you test maybe that close contact to find out if they're positive, but they come back negative. But we've also found out through the fact that they were in close contact with that positive, that realistically right away it takes 5 to as much as 14 days for the virus to present itself in another person. The 14 is the extreme end. That's why there's that 14-day period. Most of the time, within 14 days, the virus is taken hold, gone through its period, and then is no longer able to be transmitted. So, I mean, again, Julie's been working hard. I think everybody's been working hard, taking a look at this, and just really think that the most important thing that we have to try to determine is that how are we going to continue to provide the best services that we can during this particular time. If we have to think about the fact that we could get exposed, the staff could get exposed, and if they do, there's usually 2 people to an office, that we could potentially close down that office for 14 days. And it's just part of it. Or bringing the residents into the town hall on a regular basis creates that extra level, all right? We're already stepped up, the staff has, but that extra level of now, not only do our clerks or our departments have to make sure that we're cleaning those surfaces in those areas every time one resident comes in, because simply touching something could potentially transmit this COVID-19. So again, we're just trying to take a look at what the best way to handle this is. One of the things that I'm going to tell you is over the past 2 days, and this is not September. September was an uptick, but 2 days now, we're up to 12 positives in 2 days.
For the month of October?
Yes. So, and we had 14 in the last 2 weeks of September. So there's definitely something going on here. There's definitely huge swings.
So can I just hit on that while you're talking about that, so the people at home can stay in line with this conversation? So we know that you just said that there was how many cases in the last 2 days?
12.
12 cases. So there's a lag time from when you actually contract the virus to where you actually know you have it and you're
Sure.
susceptible to it, right? Where you
Yep.
can spread it. Okay. So we know there's a lag time to that. I can tell you right now, obviously in the month of September, I knew we'd have an uptick in the town of Acushnet because it didn't take a rocket scientist to drive around town and see big, huge tents in people's yards. Okay, and I said, that's not gonna be good.
No.
But that still went on. And I know numerous places where big, huge tents were in the town. So regardless of whether or not somebody's coming into this building, a resident, which they own the buildings, the taxpayers really own these buildings, so they should have a right to get inside these buildings. Regardless of that, no matter what, any one of our employees, including any one of us 3, or your board, or any board, can go to Dunkin' Donuts and get an iced coffee, and you could have COVID-19 on it, and you can pass it through that way, right? So there's no absolute way to know where it's coming from, first of all. You can't say because those doors opened up, that's the reason we're gonna blame it on reopening, because that can't really be. I'm just saying, I'm talking to the people at home mostly, because there's a lot of people that are aggravated that town hall's not open, so I'm trying to get this conversation done and over with once and for all. I think it's very frustrating. We've been through a lot together. And when I say together, all of us have been through a lot together to try to figure out COVID-19. We rushed. We were, I guess, kind of scared into hurry up and close because none of us knew what the hell was going on with COVID-19. I think there's still a lot of people that are scared of COVID-19. I'm surely not too particularly happy about COVID-19 being around and screwing up everybody's lives and putting people out of business, but the moral of the story is you're never gonna prevent COVID-19 inside of one of these buildings unless and until you lock them all up and you don't have any employees coming into them. So it's almost impossible to say, we can do X, Y, and Z, and we're not gonna have COVID-19. That's unrealistic. Do you agree?
Of course that's true.
Okay, so let's talk about what's in here, because I think we came up and we've been doing a really good job monitoring and doing our best as far as the closure of town hall to our residents and everything else. So can we just talk through this cockamanian state mapping system that I guess somebody's drawn up, and I understand that we're supposedly supposed to believe in scientists, but we were talking about believing in scientists back in March when we were all being scared about COVID-19 and hurry up, let's close down and all the businesses, everybody's getting shut down and we're gonna go into quarantine for 2 or 3 weeks and this is done and over with. And the reality is, we were lied to. It's not done and over with, right? So it's getting frustrating for a lot of people.
Sure.
So I don't understand when they say, well, listen to the scientists. I've been listening to scientists since I started this thing, okay? Since we all started this thing. It wasn't just me starting this thing. We worked on a remote action plan to close down all this board did, 2 members of this board did, and it worked out pretty damn well. And we kept business going as usual from most of our department heads that were involved in all of this. The problem is when you listen to one scientist, he comes on TV and he says X, Y, and Z, and then you get another scientist that's supposed to be just as good, epidemiologist, comes on and says A, B, and C, and I don't agree with X, Y, and Z. So there's very confusing signals, and I think that's the problem with this, is everybody sending out confusing signals. And when I read this is pretty confusing to me. And I don't think we're gonna expect our residents, and I don't like this part of it, of the reopening plan at all. I think we need to figure something out a little bit different, because what do we expect our residents to do? On Thursday, we gotta check our state website and look at what color we are and go, nope, town hall's closed until next Thursday. That's kind of what this is saying, isn't it?
Yeah, it's certainly
And this is
an
pretty
option.
bogus. I
Yep.
mean, this is, I understand the concept that we were trying to follow
Yep.
what the governor and, I guess the scientists are trying to say would work, but
So
first of all, yellow is 4 to 8, but green is 4. How do you have 2 numbers in the same category?
less than 4. The green is less than 4,
But
and the yellow is 4 to 8. I mean, this is the state, and this is actually what the phase 3, step 2
Can you
is
tell me
based
what
on.
this means though? What is this? So you're gonna say, let's just go right to the extreme, the red, right? Because the red's the worst, right?
It's coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it Christmas. So red, more than 8 cases per 100,000. How is that derived for the, how do they figure the town of Acushnet, 10,000 population? We're gonna call our population a nice even 10 grand.
Right, so you're gonna work off the ratio, that's what they're basically doing.
So what is it?
So 100,000 to 10,000.
When do we close?
It doesn't take much, it takes 3 or 4 to get to red, or to jump 1 step,
Okay.
which we actually had, so
So we're never gonna open because in June, July, and August, when we were below 10 cases,
yeah,
we never opened.
we were down to 4 in August.
But
Yeah,
Joe,
it was fabulous.
everybody knows coronavirus is not going anywhere. That's my point. So how do you expect to use this system when you're gonna tell me, oh, as soon as we hit 4, we're red, we're closing, we're going back to phase 1? That's what this is saying to me, isn't
Right.
it?
But I don't necessarily say that that is the route to go. This is why I'm here, is to have a discussion with you guys about how we can safely reopen. That's an option. It's not the requirement, okay? It certainly hasn't been put in place. The town hall is open as of yesterday, okay, from 10 to 1. So that's not anything. It's taking a look at what is going to happen, what possibly is going to happen as we move forward. And data, which I know it's coming out. These are true positive people. We deal with them. It's not coming through the state. It comes directly to our office, to our nurses.
I understand.
So-
It's the infection rate.
Yeah, which is the current positive tests, all right, that I'm giving you.
can we talk about the infection rate? Because I think that's what everybody should be talking about, instead of some cockamanian
Right,
numbers
try to
off of
reduce it.
100,000 when my population's only 10,000.
Yep.
So if everybody understands infection rate, right? So we have 10,000 people in the town of Acushnet, residents in the town of Acushnet. What we should be looking at is, what is the infection rate that this board and the Board of Health are gonna agree to that says this? If it reaches 1%, I'm gonna use 1% for, just for right now for this dialogue, because I'm not really at the 1%. But let me just use it so everybody at home understands it, because this is crap, okay? Can't happen, or we're never reopening, okay? That's the reality of that. If we said 1% infection rate would be 100 people on 10,000, correct?
Sure.
Okay, right now we're at 0.001, and we're saying we're not opening. Right? That's what this is gonna say. That's what this is saying. So at that rate, and that was with what, 12, 15 cases, 0.001? So wouldn't it be better to say to everybody at home, all of our residents and all of ourselves, is saying, let's sit down and determine, Board of Selectmen and Board of Health, and agree upon a number that's gonna say, this is the infection rate we will use in order to go back to phase one. I've been thinking about this for quite some time, way past before I seen this. And I really do believe we should be going off an infection rate and not some color-coded puzzle on DOR's website that everybody has to now go to and people don't go to, and they're showing up at the door and they're getting pissed off and aggravated because they can't get through the door because they didn't realize we're red, and oh my God, less than 5 cases and we're closed. So I've been thinking about this in my head for quite some time, is everything's based off infection rate. Why aren't we using infection rate? Why shouldn't we use infection rate? And I'm not saying, Joe, I want to use 1%, because I think 100 people, and again, infection rate is dictated by this, okay? There's an infection rate period. So it's not in 30 days, okay? It's not in 1 week. If we have this going on and then you have more people in the next week, that just keeps compiling. So the infection rate, what is the infection rate? What's the date? If you say 15 days from the time I'm infected to the time I get rid of it, is that it?
That's a fact, yeah.
15 days? So then we take a much larger precautionary measure than that, and we say, okay, let's go 21 days. We can do 30 days if we want, doesn't really matter. But why don't we take an infection rate, and no, I'm not on the 1% board, even though 100 people doesn't seem like a lot to some people out of 10,000 residents, we have to protect our employees and everybody else in the community. That's our job.
Sure.
Okay, it's not just yours as the Board of Health, it's the Board of Selectmen's job. So why don't we determine an infection rate? Because that's real simple. Everybody takes the 10 grand, or everybody will find a number. If we used 0.5%, 50 people in any given 30 days, you can do it 21 days. Don't you think that's something more reasonable? Maybe it's 0.3%. Maybe it's 38 people. Just for everybody at home, 3/8 is 0.375. So you round up, it's 38 people. Do we use a small infection rate like that, 0.3% infection rate, and say, bingo, that's our number. If we get 38 people in the town of Acushnet in any given 21 days, that triggers it, town hall's closed, we revert back to phase one.
I mean, it's definitely a great thought, and something that we probably have to dive in a little bit. I'm gonna be honest with you, based on the state's information, and this is that crazy chart that we're talking about. Based on the state's information, it's a lot less than that. You know, so, I mean, I think we wanna try to figure out exactly where it's at. Again, we're in that greater than 8 situation. When we get greater than 8 for $100,000 brings you to about 100,000 cases, brings you, and that's in a given week, all right? It brings you into the red.
But it's a
So-
daily case.
So Joe,
Yeah.
just let me add something, because I was on the mass.gov's website last week, and I'm frustrated because nothing makes any sense anymore, okay? And it says, the order also adds a provision stating that any indoor and outdoor gathering where participants cannot consistently maintain 6 feet of physical distance between one another will be in violation of the new rules, no matter what the number of participants are. And while it does not set capacity limits on public spaces like parks and beaches, the order does apply to programs, celebrations, social outings, and other events that draw together groups of people, even if they do occur in large unenclosed areas. This is the kick in the butt to me. That said, there are still expectations for political rallies and religious activities, as well as polling places, schools, hospitals, and government buildings. So they're making exceptions to the rules And this is where we got screwed back in March, when we said, close down, everybody goes into, quarantine or whatever the hell they called it in March, and we all went down and bunkered down like little ants in the ground, and we were supposed to come back out in 2 weeks and everything was supposed to be hunky-dory, and it didn't work. This is an exact example of why it's not working. It's because you have exemptions, cockamanian exemptions. When that first came out for people, essential services, they put out the essential services list. That was a friggin' joke. Everybody and their mother was on the damn list. We're really getting rid of COVID-19 that way. So all I'm trying to do is make a little bit more sense out of what some people are trying to do with COVID-19 and saying, let's think outside the box. Why don't we just use a concrete number? Maybe it's 0.25, and that's 25 people. For crying out loud, we go any less than that again, we're never reopening. I can tell you that right now. We're never reopening, Mr. Warner.
All right, so I appreciate all that information, right? And I agree this is really confusing. I think regardless, you get state guidance, but I think it's on us to define the narrative and write our own rules, right?
Sure.
So, to me, the last paragraph of this, where it says, regardless of which phase we're in, the open hours will remain 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. To me, that's the crux of the debate, right? Because what we're trying to do is make our best educated guess to reduce risk. We're not going to eradicate it, we're not going to solve it, we're not going to fix it, right? So we're going to make decisions that we think are going to minimize risk. So I think going from a 7-hour day to a 3-hour window could be one consideration. And we got to provide some degree of consistency, right? I mean, that's the in order to mitigate frustration, there can't be too much gray area. We can't be half in, half out, right? So to me, I feel like the decision should be: are we okay with a 3-hour window per day? Does that mitigate enough risk, right? Or fully closed for a period of time until either there's a vaccine or whatever. And I just want to make it clear. I think we are, I realize people might be frustrated coming in, but on a day-to-day, we are providing services. People's trash is getting picked up, right? Paramedic runs are still going out. EMS is still going out. Our police are still, cruising the streets. To my knowledge, I haven't heard anything of people not getting building permits, right? From what I understand, building permits are up because people are doing more projects, right? So from a day-to-day, I feel the residents, we had almost 98% tax collection. So I think, from my perspective, so we don't get into this rabbit hole of, phases and this and that, we've got to decide what's an appropriate risk mitigation plan. Is it 1 hour a day? Is it just 1 day of office? I don't know that. But so we're not, like you're saying, Kevin, so we're not hopscotching back and forth.
That's all I'm trying,
It's impossible.
Right.
It's absolutely impossible.
We're both
right?
talking about the same thing, and we've decided on a 3-hour window. We publicly said it, it made the newspapers that we're opening up 3, and all of a sudden, we get a little boost in cases, and oh my God, we gotta close back down. I don't wanna be that town. And I'm hearing chatters from different people that, there's really no incentive to open up, I don't really wanna hear that. All I want to know is we're doing everything we can to protect our employees. We're doing everything we can to protect our residents, which we have done thus far. There's no question about it.
Which we continue to do right now.
That's correct.
during
There's
this
no question about it.
discussion.
And we're open 3 hours a day. What I don't want to get is this willy-nilly thing where you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down, you open, you close, you open, you close. Let's not do that, because that's way too confusing for the people. I think it's going to cause a lot of frustration with our residents, and it's not going to make any of us look good in the end. So let's just figure out that infection rate. I think once we figure out what's the acceptable amount or unacceptable, nothing's acceptable. I don't want to make people, I don't think I'm over COVID-19 and let's just open doors. But let's face it, everybody goes to department stores, everybody's going to supermarket, everybody's going to the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through. I don't see anybody just coming to work, going straight home and locking themselves in the closet for the day and then going back to work. So no matter what happens, this board, your board, you, the chief, as great at work as the fire chief and his staff at Fire EMS is doing and our police and public safety are doing, it doesn't matter because they're still doing their jobs. We all need to do our jobs, and we need to serve the public. That's what you do. We are all public servants, right? We have to represent the people. And all we're trying to do is try to come to some conclusion to say, if the infection rate hits X, Y, and Z, 25.25%, a 0.5%, so it's 25 people, 50 people, in any given 21 days, it's over. It's that simple for everybody. They know at home, town hall's closed. It's that simple.
Again, the point of this discussion today is exactly that. I mean, the biggest deal that we're dealing with is the disruption of service to our residents. And that has been the staff, the entire town has worked tirelessly. Everybody's been in contact with everybody, working to figure out the best way to continuously serve the residents. And this is part of that discussion. You know, there's a whole lot of stuff going on right now. I am constantly, 7, 8, 9 hours a day dealing with this stuff. It is hard to manage, it's hard to handle, and the last thing I would ever want to see, and I'm sure that you want to see, is a disruption in service. I mean, I was one of the guys that was here along with Jim that never stayed at home. We were here constantly the whole time to provide whatever we needed to provide to the residents. Yes, don't want to cause a disruption, but yes, at the same time, we want to make sure they're safe, and we want to make sure that we're safe. That's
So
all.
Joe, let me ask you this, with the measures that have been put in place, right, the kiosks that take the temperature, the hand sanitizing stations, the essentially appointment only, the reduced hours,
Yep.
do we feel that that's an appropriate risk mitigation plan, or are there things that we can do above and beyond this, absent shutting down, but just above and beyond this? Is it 2 hours a day? Is it
I think
you know,
that the hour thing.
requiring the masks?
Yeah.
Because the last thing I want to do, I mean, we've got to take into account the safety of the employees, not only just from contracting the virus, but also the mental health. Like, I mean, that stuff kind of wears on people, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I want to be respectful of that, but also, are there other risk mitigation measures that we can put in place to do that, absent shutting down?
I think we've done a great job. I think everybody's done a great job to get to where we are, or to say that first and foremost. And we have to remember that we were working on this back in August and coming into September. And these are wonderful things. These are things that are looking to keep everybody safe. It's not just the staff, it's the residents too, because they're gonna be the ones that are gonna be in close contact with each other.
And we're doing the testing, correct, Chief?
Yep. Yep.
So I mean, that's something that I don't know that any of the municipalities doing, correct? I mean, we're providing
I don't think
testing
so.
on demand for all of our employees, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the chief's gonna talk a
Yeah,
little
so
bit, we
talk a
got the
little bit
chief
about
on
that.
the agenda, right, chief, we got you on the agenda, so that's the other thing is, we spent tens of thousands of dollars, we got the temperature kiosk, thanks to the chief, and his staff bringing that stuff in, we hung plexiglass back in May for crying out loud. Masks are mandatory on everybody's behalf while they're in, I know I'm not wearing one now because I'm the speaker, but anyways, so people at home get it. We got the plexiglass hanging, we got hand sanitizers everywhere, we put freaking ring doorbells in that, you buzz in, you say, hey, I'm here to see Joe Correa, okay, hold on 1 minute. Joe Correa says, who are you? Oh, I'm here to pick up my permit, okay, I can come out. Joe can go right out, you don't have to have the resident. If the resident says, I need to have this explained to me and it's pouring rain out, Lisa's gonna say, hold on 1 minute, I'll buzz you in, and she'll invite him in, she'll explain whatever she needs to, and he goes. I mean, that's the way it works. We've done everything other than put people in friggin' hazmat suits.
Yep.
So, I mean, we spent tens of thousands of dollars to reopen. We've reopened, it's a small window, 3 hours, give me a break. And I just don't wanna get caught up where we're open, we're closed, we're open, we're closed, we're open, we're closed. And people don't know that we're open, we're closed, because we're using a kangaroo map.
Agreed, that's why we're here.
I mean, that's all I'm trying to say.
If it goes up and that infection rate hits, whatever that decides to be, what is our plan? Okay,
So,
that's
right.
the thought here.
So I wasn't here.
The plan is the same thing as anything. It doesn't matter whether you have 1 case in this town hall or you have 10 cases in this town hall. The plan is the plan. I mean, where did it come from? More than likely, you're shutting down. You're gonna have the chief come in with his foggers and disinfect the buildings and everything else, and then we reopen. I mean, it's that simple. It doesn't matter whether you're reopening for our residents or you just have employees coming into the building. COVID-19, I said this in the beginning, it doesn't give a damn who you are, what age you are, what color you are. It doesn't care. And what I think everybody, including our employees, is sometimes if you're that freaked out, stay home. You're a public, you work for the public sector, and if you're going to the grocery store, you're going to department stores, you're going to Dunkin' Donuts, you're not, restaurants, which I've seen a lot of them in restaurants, okay? You're not that friggin' afraid of COVID-19, that's what I got to say to you. I'm sorry, but it's just plain English.
From the staff.
I mean, come
you know,
on.
Fabulous staff.
I know, I'm not
Yeah.
diminishing my staff, okay? I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to diminish the fact that if we get 10 cases out there, oh my God, we gotta hurry up and close down.
Well,
It's not true.
I am
It's
here
not true.
to suggest to the selectmen that we take a look at that, you know, and in the event that there is an upswing, a serious upswing, and, you know, it's potentially affecting not just Acushnet, it's affecting several communities. What are we gonna do?
I hear you. I understand. That's why I think that the infection rate, Mrs.
Yeah,
DeRoche.
well, you make a valid point, you know, what are we gonna do if the infection rate goes? Are we gonna go back to closing the restaurants? You know, so the people who we all work with and everything, now we're back limited again, back to your home. You go into a supermarket and you're going to work, or
Hopefully
you're
that
working
doesn't
from
happen.
home.
Yeah.
Well, because one question I have is where it says if we're red or yellow, we go back to phase one, is that remote working again? I mean, is that complete?
No, that's just closed to the public completely. No more 3-hour window or anything.
It's the treasure collector's window, the side window is
Mhm.
still open from the 10 to 1, but the doors to the building are locked and appointment only for anybody else besides the treasure collector.
So-
We've always been appointment only.
So,
Right.
October 6th, right now, we're phase two, are we considered phase two? Is that
Yeah,
what we're
this is phase
considered?
2.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, based on the map and based on basically also what's going on with the phase 3, step 2, which is the state's plan, that we're gonna get kicked. We went from gray, which is basically not really having any cases or have a very limited amount. We went up 2 steps into the yellow, and now with the fact that just this week we've had those 12, it's gonna put us into a red. So just as a metric, we're trying to take a look at that because that's something that the state's looking at. Because if we go into the red, and this is gonna affect the golf course more, I think there was some guidance that came out and said if they go into the phase 3, step 2, that they could definitely start to have, have more capacity at the golf course. And now it's gonna back off based on the state if we go into red.
So a week from yesterday, okay, this is why I'm getting frustrated with everything.
Yeah.
Because nobody's making any sense. And it's very frustrating for us,
We're
all of us, I mean, you, Chief Gallagher, Julie, all of us, to try to sit here and rationalize what's gonna be the right metric. I mean, I think the infection rate is the best way to go. I really do, in a given percentage of days. A week from yesterday, the governor comes out, okay, let alone the cockamamie crap I read to you over here, okay, political rallies and all this other crap. It goes on and on and on. Now, we can call, this board right here can call anything it wants an essential service and it stays open. End of story. It's in this governor's plan. But last week he comes out and says, oh, guess what? So all of a sudden, this is a big hype. Oh, we're gonna go back to a phase in a yellow and a red and a green and a, but we can now, as of last Monday, we can sit at bars and eat, okay, facing the bar, as of last Monday, and you can put 2 people in a golf cart and there don't need to be a friggin' separator. Really?
Right.
Really?
Mr. Chairman, and that's one comment I would have to the golf committee or to ourselves, that the golf course puts that barrier back up. We spent the money and put it up, and now it's disappeared. And you're saying we're spreading. I played golf 2 weeks ago. In my foursome was a person from Rhode Island, a person from Mattapoisett, and a person from Syracuse, New York. So the golf course attracts people from all over. It's a great asset to the town.
Absolutely.
But once again, as you mentioned, we're opening up the restaurants as far as the bars go, sitting at a bar, so we're expanding and letting more people in. The infection rate is going up in the town.
It is
And
now.
it's a
Well, it's
direct
going up.
relationship to
It's
it.
going up statewide. I mean, it really is.
And-
Chairman?
Yes, Mr.
Can I
Warner?
suggest this? I mean, I think we've talked about this long enough, is that, look, we've got some of the best-in-class mitigation measures, right? With testing and all this stuff. We've got a policy in place from 10 to 1. And I would argue that this team's been through this enough. I wasn't here when the pandemic took off. But if there's an absolute explosion, I think we're all smart enough to know that we can call an emergency meeting and make a judgment call to shut it down. No different than we do when we have a blizzard, right? We make a judgment call that, you know what, we want to be preventative, we want to do certain things. I think we can, what this last paragraph to me is, what's critical to this is that, you know, the mitigation is 10 to 1. And we'll see how that goes. And if things absolutely take off, we've empowered Julie, and I'd even go so far to empower the chairman to work in concert with the town administrator and the chief and Joe. So if we had to shut it down, we shut it down. But to go through this hopscotching is unacceptable. So, you know, I think either shut down altogether or try this. This is the mitigation with all these other protocols in place. Monitor it. I think that's relatively safe. And if we get to a point where we feel that there's an exposure here at Town Hall, then we'll reassess. But I think we can do that on a moment's notice.
Sure.
And also the residents, I still believe we're providing a great service. You know, the core services are being provided to the taxpayer. I don't think anybody's skipping a beat there. In addition, just across town, we have an expectation that the schools are gonna still provide the service. I think we need to be on the same page as the schools. It sends a mixed message that if Town Hall is shut down, but it's okay for the school and the teachers to be open. I think that's the wrong message and the wrong optics to send, so.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. I mean, you know, I could go on and on and on about the nonsense, right? Catholic schools open full-time, public schools aren't. I mean, I can just keep laying out all the little things that just irk the hell out of me with people that are making decisions, and none of it's universal. It's we all need to do, when we shut down, okay, we should all just shut down. End of story.
Agreed.
End of story. Like we were told, but no. The essential service list went on and on and on and on and on, and we didn't really freaking shut down. All we did was hurt ourselves, and we collapsed the economy, because we're losing businesses, some of them great businesses, and we're losing them no fault of their own. And that really aggravates me. So, we can continue talking about what metric we use. I'd like to engage with your board and yourself, Joe, and Ms. Hebert, and Chief Gallagher. Maybe we come up with some sort of infection rate parameter that we use and say, this is what it's gonna be, and we'll revert back. I mean, we gotta have something that's gonna work. We've done so much
Yep, and we
to
keep
take
doing
the
it.
right measures. Let's not screw this up.
Maybe,
Like
you know.
Mr. Wona says, you know, you can't have one side, the school's doing one thing, we're doing other things. People are looking at us going, everybody else is open, but you're not.
But maybe the parameters, we have access to testing if it's 2 positive tests.
The chief's on the agenda for some testing, and
Right, so-
I think he's gonna bring some good stuff to us very shortly.
I
He's
know
shaking his head, so I'm
We are
confident he's
supposed to
gonna.
both be at the school committee meeting.
Right. We'll get you out of here.
Thank
You're both going to a school committee meeting? At what time?
5:30.
All right. Yeah,
Chief,
5
I'll
minutes,
take you,
Chief.
I'm out of order anyway, so Chief, if, we're gonna jump right over to CARES Act request, we'll go right to COVID testing plan, fire EMS. We have Chief Gallagher here, he was patiently sitting in the audience.
No, thank you, gentlemen, for giving me an opportunity to kind of update you on our testing for COVID-19. You had a lot of numbers just thrown at you from Joe. I would just like to rephrase one of the statistics that he gave you, but put it in a different manner. It was reported last week by the state on September 30th that the town had a total of 123 COVID cases. Since that report was released to today, we've had 12, or 10% of our total since this all began. So Joe is here saying that all indications are that we're seeing a spike. I would go so far as to say it is a confirmed spike. And where it's coming from, we don't know. Joe ran the numbers for gender and age, and it's all over the map. So there's, I believe the oldest was 70, the youngest was 13.
That was for the month of September though, Chief, not for the
For
12
September.
added in October. So we know we had an event,
Yeah.
we had a venue, a place of business, and I don't wanna keep naming places of business, okay, cause I don't do that on TV.
Yep.
Especially when it comes to this stuff, publicity wise, it's not a good thing, okay,
Yep.
so we don't have to keep repeating that, okay? But that had people that had COVID-19 going into the establishment,
Right.
so that was what I would call like a mini super spreader event, right?
Well, the contact tracing will bear that out when the information gets to Joe. But You charged our department and you provided funding through the CARES Act with providing COVID-19 testing. And if you remember, Mr. Chairman, we put together a plan that has 3 different phases. Phase 1 was testing on demand for a department head or an employee that believes there was an exposure. We'd be able to get to them as quickly as possible and get the testing done. We've been doing that, and we've been doing that more regularly than you may imagine. We also started with the schools on the 15th of September, testing voluntarily any of the teachers and staff that wanted to come forward. There we're doing the antibody testing. Because we're doing it regularly, it has more value to tell whether or not you've been exposed to the COVID-19 virus and developed the antibodies. So when we're doing it regularly, that test it is measurably important.
Can I ask you a question about the
Sure.
antibody test? Because we were doing the nasal swabs. On the antibody test, you said it shows that if you've had it, like you
It
could
shows
be,
if you have the antibodies. What we can't decipher from the test is, are the antibodies, were you exposed so long ago that your body is flushing out the antibodies? Or were you recently exposed that they're percolating the antibodies? So whenever we give an antibody test, we give it with a caveat that if it comes back anything other than negative, we would like you to take the nasal swab test, which definitively says whether or not you're carrying the virus actively or not.
Okay.
So we started in the schools on Wednesday, the 15th of September, and we've made a plan with the superintendent to be there every Wednesday, starting at 9:30 in the morning until we get done testing whatever number of teachers and staff step forward and ask for the testing. We also will be, we just put this together today, we'll be heading to Presidential Terrace for testing of the seniors there on the 15th of this month. By appointment. The staff there is taking care of making those arrangements for us, but we'll have staff testing the senior population. And then starting this Friday, every week, we'll be testing town employees from all of your different campuses, DPW, Council on Aging, the 2 buildings here. And that will be going from 1 to 3. And again, we'll be because we're doing it regularly, we'll be offering the antibody test with that caveat.
How fast can you do an individual?
It's 10 minutes for the antibody test to sit until the result comes up, and the nasal swab, you're in and out in a couple of minutes.
How fast do you get the results from the nasal swab from that company that you had did a deal
So
with?
the courier arrives usually around 9 o'clock at night to pick up the day's collection. They go to New Jersey. That's when the 24-hour clock starts.
Oh.
So I've found, but really I think it's based on how busy they are, I've had results come back with, because I get access to the portal, so I'm seeing results within 24 to 36 hours on average.
It's pretty good.
It's very good. It's very good. So
Excellent.
that's phase 1 was on demand. Phase 2 was to assist with the opening of the schools and town hall. So we've checked those 2 boxes, which brings me here today to ask your support of moving to phase 3. And given the fact that just today we have reports of 8 new cases in town, 12 since last Wednesday, we are proposing a community-wide COVID testing opportunity this Saturday, beginning at 9 a.m. We're saying until 1, but we'll stay as long as there is interest. The front parking lot at the schools, we've cleared this with Superintendent Bailey. We will have staff there to provide the nasal swab definitive tests. Again, we're not going to be doing this every week, so the antibody test really is for those who we're able to track. But we will, if you gentlemen so approve, be there in number on Saturday for our first go at a community-wide project. Free of charge, any resident, symptomatic or not symptomatic, who simply wants to see whether or not they have the coronavirus, is invited to come. There's a form to fill out, takes a minute or 2. The nasal swab test can be done in 10 seconds, and then you can be on your way.
Chief, this is the form that you're gonna have fill out.
No, that is for the
Employees?
that is for the antibody test.
Oh,
Yes.
I don't have one for
The other one is a requisition form from the lab. We fill that out for the people to make sure that what the
Okay.
lab is giving.
So this is the antibodies?
That's for the antibodies.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So What's different this time than back in the spring was we saw that sharp increase in cases, but we weren't in a position to do testing. But based on the charge that you gave my department and the funding that you made available, here we are pretty much at the launching pad, I believe, of a pretty significant spike. And we may be able to get ahead of it by doing this community-wide testing. We'll know, if we do it Saturday, we'll know Sunday night into Monday, the folks will start getting results. They can then take the appropriate action. So hopefully, we can start slow the spread of those folks who are testing positive. So there is an awful lot of coordination involved in this. This is not something that we imagined doing in January. On New Year's Eve last year, I did not imagine that I'd be coming to you talking about COVID-19 testing. So we may stumble a little bit on Saturday. I've got no idea how many tests to order. So I ordered probably twice as many as we'd possibly use, but we don't know. We don't know. It's akin to throwing a party and not sending out invitations.
So,
Just don't know how many
so
people.
this is the first time that
This
this is
is
being
if
spoken
you,
about?
If you endorse this.
If we endorse this, more than likely the advocate will get it and print it on Thursday, because you're trying to do this on Saturday.
Mr. Chairman, we have a plan pending your approval. The sign will be lit up in Town Hall parking lot tomorrow morning, announcing Saturday at the schools, 9 to 1, free COVID testing for Acushnet residents. We will unleash the hounds as far as our social media platforms to get the word out. And
Are you sure you want to do all that?
yeah.
I know, it's tough, man.
8
You're
cases
taking
today
a
is
lot on.
8 cases today is an eye-opener.
Chief,
and we're
I-
kinda worried about tomorrow.
I couldn't commend you and the staff enough. I mean, you guys, I know you're in that line of work, but you surely didn't need to take on this responsibility, and I really do commend you and your staff for this reason, is because when we do see that elevated increase in cases, we immediately are in front of this board to say, I'd like to be able to offer these tests to the residents of Acushnet, so if we can stop the spread, the rate of spread, truly commendable. So I really give you a lot of credit.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Remember, this was born out of frustration. I don't want.
You're telling me?
In the frustration was the fact that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts failed us. Right? We've been beating the drum since the summer that you can't spend resources in the city alone and not pay attention to those communities that are contiguous to the cities. We share the same economy. When a resident from Acushnet goes to pay a bill, it's in New Bedford. When they go to a supermarket, it's in New Bedford. Doctor's office, it's in New Bedford. And to only commit to testing sites. Now, people from Acushnet could have gone in, but there's barriers to that.
Yeah.
So again, truly, we're the Indians. We're the Army. You guys are the generals. And you set up the strategy. You made the funding available. And by getting ahead of it like this is truly a well-coordinated town team activity. And Mr. Wallner, I think you're right. I haven't seen another community in the greater New Bedford area doing what we're doing to try to stay ahead of this.
I make a
So I just have a couple questions.
Mhm.
So people understand, we want as many people coming, right? Because our target audience, quite frankly, is those who are asymptomatic.
Correct.
Right? Because if you're high fever and you're sick, you're probably going to your primary care. We want to be able to identify those who may be walking around with it and don't know it,
Mhm.
right? Or it's in that early incubation period without any visible symptoms. My only question is just from a logistical standpoint is, now would this be drive-through? How will it be administered? Because, the school, that's a great place to do it,
Right.
but do you need another location? Are you
Let's
comfortable?
try here.
Okay.
And part of the CARES money for the schools, they purchased 5 12x12 tents. They arrived today. We're going to be borrowing 4 of them. So we'll have 4 individual stations staffed by 2 staff members. The DPW is making available sawhorses and the barriers, so folks can park anywhere. When they come up to us, there will be lanes similar to what you see here in the aisles of Town Hall, 6 feet apart, and we will just walk through, fill out the form with you, hand you the form. When you're called to go get tested, you're in and out in a minute or two.
And you'll have, EMA or police to do detail, like working through traffic and all
We
that?
have them on speed dial.
Okay.
in the event
If things
that,
get messy.
Yeah,
Because that stuff will be paid for, we can use CARES money, I mean, I think, just to make sure that
Right.
you've got what you need, you know, don't, for this one, you know, for this event,
Yeah.
don't let money be an obstacle, because so let's get it right, and so if you need,
that is
detail.
music to my ears.
you need
Mr.
detail,
Selectman.
you know, detail officers or EMA, and keep it moving so there's
Okay.
no backlog, you know, we wanna make sure that this gets done.
Yeah, we got the CARES Act money, I couldn't agree
Right.
more.
And if this is successful, we will probably replicate it.
Don't be
moving forward.
trying to be with you and your staff, because I know how you guys can be. You're always trying to do the most, and you said 9 to 1. And, you know, you get inundated with 500-600 people out there, maybe more. Don't be afraid to shut that thing down, and then we just continue it for the following weekend, chief. You
Yeah.
have that flexibility, whatever it is, whatever time that we're paying, we'll take that from CARES Act as well.
Yep.
For the staff that's out there doing it, including yourself, whatever it takes. That's what we have to do, that's
So-
what we're gonna do, but.
And thank you for pointing that out. I gotta tell you, one of the things that you're doing with this, and I think that it is as equally as important, more important is to find out if you're positive and isolating. But there is such an emotional, kind of mental health hit that people take. We've been testing, I tested 2 people today, and they're crying. They're concerned, they're visibly upset, thinking that they are positive they've been exposed. And I'm fine, they're telling us with such relief, they're so thankful for the opportunity to do the testing locally and to get the results in 24 to 36 hours, if nothing else, just to alleviate that concern. So, you know, this is a positive thing that you've just endorsed, but it's positive in many different ways that I don't think we really got our minds around. So
And I can tell you right now that I went in early July and I had a test for COVID-19. You know how much I paid for that test? $146.
Yeah.
For literally 5 friggin' minutes inside of that little room. I walked in and I walked right
Yeah.
back out. And they sent me a bill for $146.
Yeah.
So
So the only information that we will take down
it's
on the
free
form,
for everybody at home. It's free.
The
I
only
don't want to
information-
scare anybody
exactly.
with $146 number.
the information we'll take down is demographic, name, date of birth, address, and then in the event that you are positive, we need email address and contact phone number. That's it. We're not asking for insurance cards, we're not asking for IDs, we're not asking for any of that. So, 9 to 1 Saturday, the front parking lot between the 2 schools. As I was telling a friend yesterday, you know, cut us some slack a little bit because you know, we may be tweaking this. This is a work in progress. So we'll stumble through it, but we'll get to the other side of it
It's
as
not your
well.
full-time job, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr.
we make a
Lonnie.
motion to endorse, to give Chief the approval to move forward.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, gentlemen. Joe, you ready? We're taking different vehicles.
All right.
Chief, you'll announce to the school committee that we just approved
Yes.
this as well?
Yep,
Great, thank you.
All right, we'll go back. Ms. Labonte is in the house.
I'm here.
Ms. Labonte's on the agenda under appointments, gentlemen. Back at the beginning, we jumped around because she wanted to have a little discussion on the CARES Act that we left open.
Did you want to do your portion on the CARES Act and then I just jump in?
Ms. Labonte, we're gonna do,
I want to get you in and out.
Yeah.
you wanted to talk about early voting in CARES Act, and then you have a few appointments for us to make. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Why don't we, is the warrant that you put in front of us, 2020 state election warrant, the electors of president and vice president, senator in Congress, representative in Congress, councilor, senator in general court, representative in general court, registrar of probate, county commissioner, and county treasurer, and question 1, 2, and I think it's 1 and
Just
2.
1 and 2.
Is that's on the warrant, so the warrant is correct?
Yep.
Is there a motion to approve the warrant from Ms. Labonte?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Labonte, can I ask you one quick question about question 2?
Sure.
It says, it's on that ranking of voting, but it says on a yes vote, it would create a system of ranked choice voting in which voters would have the option to rank candidates in order of preference, and votes would be counted in rounds, eliminating candidates candidates with the lowest votes until one candidate has received the majority. That's a yes vote. A no vote would make no change in the laws governing voting and how votes are counted.
That's
Is
correct.
it, aren't they the same still? Because don't you do that anyway? It's process of elimination. Whoever comes in with the most votes wins?
No,
What's this rank thing then? That's what it says.
yeah, right now they're doing it in Maine, and maybe 3 other states as well. What it does is allows you as the voter to rank the candidates. So it would be a 1, 2, 3. So if candidate, your number 1 choice did not make it into office, your vote would now go to candidate number 2.
So it's more for a 3-person or 4-person race. If there's 2 people, you're either voting for A or B. But if
Right.
there's 3 people, like we have sometimes in this town election, you can vote A, B, and rank them.
They have not,
Or is it not
actually,
town?
they have talked about municipal elections, and right now, it's not for the municipal
Okay.
elections. And it would not be for president, it would be for the state elections.
So your vote actually defaults to the next person?
Yes.
The hell do they wanna do that for?
I
I think everybody knows when they go in who they wanna vote for.
just need to
I
carry
don't
it
want my
out
vote to
if
default
need
to
be.
somebody, would you? I mean, I don't know. Okay, that's fine. And you wanna talk about, you want us to appoint some election,
Yes. I have 4 individuals.
so, as election workers, you wanna appoint, Ms. Lavoni, go ahead, read through them?
Maxwell Cordero, Michelle Texera, Erin Hedges, and Eric James, all of which are Acushnet residents.
Is there a motion to appoint as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Warner?
So moved, all set. Second.
All those in favor?
Sorry, I'm reading something else.
We get
All
done.
set.
I'm breathing my own fumes here, you know, I'm getting a little dizzy.
Okay, you're all set with that. Now you'd like to have a little discussion, or you're just gonna, let me just see. CARES Act request, it's on your appointment, so we can talk about it right now. We can go down to CARES Act, but it doesn't matter. We'll go right down to your request. Let's
Okay.
do that. We can
Okay.
get you out of here.
Well, before we go with that, I would like to announce that I was just approved for a $5,000 grant from the Center for Tech and Civic Life. So I'll be working with Melissa, because I have not done a grant before that has been approved. So I will be meeting with them, but that grant is strictly for election expenses. So I understand with the CARES Act, but I wanted to put that out there so you are aware that I will be receiving $5,000.
Do you need additional funding from CARES Act? Because we can use that money from CARES Act to help out with election stuff, right?
Yeah.
They're qualified, so do you have an additional request outside of 5,000 that you may get from the grant?
Yes. One of the items that I'm looking to purchase are poll pads. And the poll pads essentially take away the hard copy check-in sheets that we have, and it makes it more electronic. It also allows us to not have to scan with each election. So what happens is you come in to vote, and there's a little barcode next to your name. After the election, we go through and we have to scan each of those names to make sure that it updates your voter history. So it shows that you voted in the presidential primary or the state primary, okay? Those are approximately $2,100 each, okay? And that includes the annual maintenance on both, on them. I would eventually like to get 7 of them, one for the check-in table, one for the check-out table. But right now, I'm looking for the request for at least 4 of them.
But they're $2,100 a piece,
Yep,
right?
yep. they're utilized.
And how
for-
good are these things that file along, because when we discussed CARES Act money, if we were doing any purchasing, we said that we didn't want anybody to be spending CARES Act money that's gonna bleed into their budget and need that request. So if you spend $15,000 from CARES Act,
Yeah.
ma'am, we don't want it to be a reoccurring expense in your budget every year.
I
Because
see.
it's not, the CARES Act money's not gonna be there.
Right,
You know what I'm
okay.
saying?
Yep,
So it's kinda like a one-time funding source, correct, Ms. Hewitt? So
Okay.
it just, it seems to be like you're moving in that direction, but CARES Act isn't gonna be around, and you're gonna need the reoccurring revenue somewhere else, 2, 3, depends on how long these little cockamamie machines last.
well, hopefully they last a long time.
Well, how good is technology these days? I mean, most people, if you're running a business, you're buying a computer every 3 to 5 years.
Well, there are upgrades that would be done as part of the annual maintenance to it. And looking at the annual maintenance, we're looking at, well, for 7, it would be $2,100.
That's the maintenance,
That would be the maintenance.
so everything seems to be $2,100.
$300 per machine.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right,
Alright.
yeah.
You think the machines will like give you some longevity? Because we could always just do it an article expenditure every 3 to 5 years. I don't think that's gonna be a big issue for $15,000. I mean, we see other people come in for articles for more than that, so
Okay,
I guess if we're.
you know best, so whatever you would like me to do, I'm okay with. So
What the
whatever
hell
you
do I know? All I'm
recommend.
doing is having a conversation with you right now. You're the one that's asking for $15,000.
Right, but if
And
you
we know
feel
that there's a replacement, there's a shelf life to it.
Yes.
It's gonna need to be replaced, and we've kind of set precedent saying that we weren't gonna fund things, but I guess it's okay if the board feels that they wanna fund something for $15,000. What I'm saying is it's $15,000, and we could do an article every 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it is, that these things are gonna need to be replaced,
Okay,
you know, as they kick the bucket, right?
Well, $2,100 a year for maintenance on top.
right,
Well, that'll have to be a budgetary thing.
right.
if-
Now, that's for the 7 machines.
Mm-hmm.
So, and essentially what that does is that helps, as we all know, I'm running into a real difficult spot here because of COVID, which I don't have the people, although fortunately I had those new people come forward.
Correct.
But we don't have the people available like we used to in the past.
That's because that population group is most susceptible to COVID-19, so by right,
Exactly.
you don't wanna really put them in harm's way, right? Knowing that
Exactly.
they're the most vulnerable, so.
Right. So that would, using the polling pads, does allow me to reduce the number of people in the precincts.
Okay.
So it does make it electronic.
What do you need?
but
15?
I would appreciate 15. That would be great.
Is the board,
Yeah.
motion to approve the request from Ms. Labonte in the amount of $15,000 for CARES Act?
And I'll second that motion.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
What else you got?
I just wanted to touch upon early voting.
Okay.
Early voting does start October 17th, and it will run Saturday and Sunday for 2 weeks. It'll be 2 weeks straight. The first Saturday and Sunday, the hours will be 8 to 12. The second Saturday, which is going to be the 24th of October, the hours will be 3 to 7. That's in part because of voter registration. That's the deadline on the 24th. That's the last day to register to vote. Okay. Some other deadlines. Oh, and by the way, I saw the marquee is back. So we can start putting
They were there
signage up
yesterday,
there.
putting it up.
That's fantastic. That's great news. I would like to also add that we have vote by mail, which has already started. We just received our ballots. We've been counting them out. We're hoping to get those in the mail by the beginning of next week. The deadline to request an absentee ballot or a vote by mail ballot is going to be 5 o'clock on the 28th of October, which is a Wednesday. Okay? So those are just some of the deadlines that are coming up. But the hours for early voting, the Saturday and Sundays will be the 8 to 12 with the exception of the 24th.
So we'll know
So-
who won the elections, no matter what position it is, by Christmas?
Oh, I hope it's gonna be well before Christmas.
It's not if I'm able to send my mail-in vote back to the 28th or whatever you just said.
No, that's not, it's not the 28th. No, that's the last day to request
Right, but
a
November
ballot.
3rd, I thought I heard somewhere on TV, November 3rd, as long as it's postmarked for November 3rd, it's a legitimate ballot.
If it's postmarked for November 3rd and it's received within 3 days of November 3rd. So November 6th at 5 o'clock is the deadline.
So there's a stipulation of 3 days?
Yeah, is the deadline. With the exception of overseas. Overseas does have an extension of 10 days. So we're looking to, I'm hoping to get it done much sooner because of course we have town meeting that's shortly thereafter. But we will have the results, the latest would be the 18th of November.
And you will still be accepting the ballots at the box until November 3rd or November 6th?
No, they'll only be accepted in the box
Mhm.
at the Parting Ways building until November 6th at 5 p.m.
November 6th?
November 6th.
Okay, because you have them asking people out.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say
No,
November 6th? Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
no,
That's
Oh,
why I'm trying,
no.
he's saying one thing
No.
and then you
Yeah.
said
No.
something
No.
different and he said
Sorry.
something, I'm like, wait a
That's the
minute.
mail.
Actual-
I'm sorry,
bring
I'm
it
so
there-
sorry.
Bring it
That's-
there and put it in the box.
By November 3rd
Okay,
at 8 p.m.,
good, okay.
okay?
Good.
That's pretty much all I've got.
Crazy world. All right, thanks, Ms. Labonte.
It'll be
Yes.
over soon. I hope. I'm an optimist.
Thanks, Tim.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. CARES Act request. Gentlemen, I let,
Oh, I have.
Ms. Hebert know that I'd just like to have a discussion with the board about businesses in town. Maybe perhaps that we could see if CARES Act could, some of the funding from CARES Act, we could cover some of the taxes for businesses that have been restricted from opening or heavily burdened by COVID-19, and which we issued licenses to. Maybe we could use the CARES Act money for taxes or waive licensing fees and things of that nature. I don't know if the board had an appetite to go after something like that, but I think that some of these businesses that, you know, restaurants and, you know, Century House wedding venue that is unable to open, but restaurants can, but he couldn't. The wedding place down on Main Street that couldn't open up to sell tuxedos or gowns or whatever, that little wedding place down near Hamlin Street. You know, any business that has been impacted, you know, that we could help out, maybe we could use some CARES Act money. I don't know if that falls into that category where we could use it or not. I just figured I'd throw it out to the board to say, hey, maybe we ought to be looking at this because, you know, we've charged licensing fees, let's use I think I talked to Lisa this today, she said something about a liquor license was $900. If that's, is that for like restaurants, Lisa, $900?
Yes.
So $900, I mean, these people weren't able to open, you know, how many months out of the year, and even if they are, they're restricted, can we waive those fees, things of that nature, to try to help these folks out? I know it's not a lot of money, it's just a good gesture to our local businesses. You know, we don't have a lot of them in town, and I hate to lose any of them, and I know a few people that have restaurants that have just decided to call it quits.
I'm open to that suggestion, Mr. Chairman. We're just gonna put some numbers to it. I don't know what we have appropriated in CARES Act money or can appropriate, and
Can we do it?
and what, are we gonna do it like across the board even for everybody, or, you know,
Can we
how are we
do it?
gonna adjust it?
I have to look into whether we can use the CARES money to cover the fee, but I do know that there are towns that have waived the fees, or they've prorated them. So if they were closed for 4 months, they'd, you know, do the 4 months out, divide the total fee by 12 times the number of months and reduce the fee for that amount.
I'm
So I
willing
know
to
we
waive,
can at least
I'm
do
willing
that.
to waive the fee altogether with, as far as like a liquor license goes, something that's like $900. I mean, these people, they're just getting crushed. I mean, we're not even touching how much they've lost. I mean,
I think, Mr. Chairman, I think the hospitality industry has really gotten hammered, right? So to make it easy, we would consider foregoing the liquor license for the upcoming year, right? But then there are other things that we do that we provide in hardship cases. We have forgiven water bills, right? We have forgiven tax bills. So perhaps to the businesses, we come up with some some means testing, if you will. They gotta demonstrate that their business has been impacted by 25%, or come up with some appropriate number.
Yeah.
We have to
And if we have a
establish
pool of money set aside for those types of things, and we get it on a case-by-case basis, because we may not be thinking, a water bill is a bill. And if that's the way we can do it, if that's the mechanism to do it through the water bill, or, if you're giving a tax bill, or some percentage of that, then I think
Yeah.
that's a great use of tax.
Great point.
That's a great use of CARES Act
CARES
money,
Act.
and I'd be all for it. So that's a great suggestion, Kevin. Maybe you and Julie could work out what the loopholes are, I guess, if you will, and how we can do it. I know I read in the paper in Richmond, Virginia, they're using CARE Act's money to allow restaurants to, for mini grants for heating outside stuff. So it sounds like it's pretty wide scope what we can use it for, but let's maybe get with DOR or whatever, whoever's administering it. And I think it's a great idea, Kevin, so I'm all in.
Yeah, and if we can't go through the CARES Act, I mean, the Board of Selectmen can notify the Board of Assessors and speak in favor of them abating these things, because that's what the overlay surplus account's for. The assessors hold, $400,000, $500,000 for abatements on people's
Right.
taxes, when you wanna abate, you feel like you're being treated unfairly, but we could definitely work in collaboration with the Board of Assessors and say, hey, this is what we're doing, we weren't able to do it this way, but maybe we could do it that way and work it out that way, so Julie and I'll try to figure out the logistics of it all and see what we can do and help them out.
I think if it's a government mandated shutdown, or a government mandated restriction, I realize that somebody may be, out of work or whatever. I think there's ways that we can look at this and come up with a game plan for Q4.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you,
gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, good suggestion.
Thank you. All right, Julie, you don't have anything on the CARES Act, do you?
Nope, it was
Just what we'll be talking about, you and I, and,
Yep.
The other thing that we'll talk about is with Joe, and I'll try to figure that out,
Yeah,
get a better plan out there, and
absolutely.
maybe it's a bingo. So, number 5, on the old business, we have an agreement, it looks like, for Lake Street Services contract with a company called Solitude Lake Management. I blew through it pretty quick, doesn't look like anything jumps out to me very alarming. I know that we got an appropriation from Selectmen Wonave of $5,000, and this looks like it's coming out to $4,780, basically $1,200 a pond. Selectman Warner, you have anything to say about this?
No, this is, in order to get this moving, we need the contract approved by the board. I will say that the Lake Street Committee, we met the other day by Zoom, and in the interest of full disclosure, we want to go forward with this, full speed ahead, to try and time the November town meeting, because we had talked about, a scope of one-time expenditures, and if the committee is looking at CPC money, and if we're able to appropriate that, then we can hit the ground running come spring, early summer, because we don't want to wait. If town meeting is protracted out until June or July like it was this year, you run the risk of the milfoil and the algae coming, and now you've lost a season. So if we can get the money encumbered at the November town meeting through CPC, and then we can get right after it in the spring.
Well, so this contract will establish a baseline of what's wrong.
Right, they're gonna do testing, figure out what needs to be done, they'll then build a plan based on this testing, and we'll figure out, is it all 4 ponds, is it 2 ponds, or whatever, what's doable. We caution the committee that's gonna be a phased-in approach, but it starts with this.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with Solitude Lake Management.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, gentlemen.
Excellent.
And then on
Thank
behalf of the
you.
committee,
Thank
on
you.
behalf of the committee, they want me to express their thanks to you, gentlemen. I know I've been running point on it, but I've told them
You
time
have
and time
done
again.
a great job
Without
expediting
your
this.
support.
And did you receive the photos I sent?
Yes, thank you very much, very helpful.
And you really pushed this thing quick, so thank you. I'm just looking Warner. So, be nice, I know that the ponds are drying up, so maybe that could help them in weed mitigation, I don't know, but I'm sure your committee will figure it out. You seem to assemble a great team over there, so congratulations on that. New business, just a date, setting a tentative date for the classification hearing. November 17th, I will be in the country. Wow, you know, you never know where I'm gonna be, so November 17th for the classification, is that date been given by the assessors to make sure she's got everything set in place?
Yep,
Yeah.
that was their preferred date if that will work for us.
I'm
When's
assuming
our
that's
next meeting though? Is our next meeting the 20th, I thought I seen?
20th of October. This would be November.
Right,
Oh, this is all the way up November.
Yeah.
yeah, this is,
Yeah, okay, that's that, well, there you go. Things change, but, you know, tentative date will be November 17th, depending on circumstances, right? I don't know what's gonna happen in a month from now.
and this is
month
to
and a half from now.
establish the business tax rate,
Yes.
versus
Yeah,
residential.
yep,
okay.
tax classification, residential split rate right now,
Mhm.
25 to 1.
Yep.
All right,
So we're good with that date?
tentatively, yep.
Okay.
Good.
I mean, you know, it's kinda tough to set dates and things to do and with what's going on in the world. Department of Public Works, some unfortunate news. We have Miss Silva here, unfortunately, she's coming on behalf of the Department of Public Works. Nice to see you, Miss Silva,
Nice to see all of
as
you.
always.
Yes. this is
I
again
know.
today.
I know.
I wish I had better news for you guys tonight, but
I know.
the DPW worked with our vendors. We have 3 vendors who we work with, CMAS, a group that does our TVs and a group that does our mattresses. Come up with some dates in October to do the large item pickup. Unfortunately, one of the vendors is having an issue, the largest vendor, that we can't do the large item pickup in October.
That's CMAS.
It is CMAS, they don't have a shredder available, and that's obviously the biggest items, those couches and the chairs and everything. They need the shredder in order to do it. So unfortunately, they had to back out. They had given me a promise that they were available and recently said that they unfortunately cannot. So they said they will be available, they promised to be available to us in the spring.
Did you get that promise in writing?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I do everything in writing.
One thing I'm
I
learning
got
is,
the original
one thing
promise
I'm
in writing.
learning real quick, a handshake's not the thing of the past, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
back then you could do a handshake deal and it was as good as gold, right? Not
That's right.
anymore.
They were, I mean, they felt very bad about it. They did, they apologized.
It's unfortunate because I've had a few seniors in my neighborhood that have been talking about it and asking me what's going on. I said, oh, it's coming, we just didn't wanna,
Well, that's
thank
unfortunate.
goodness that we didn't set the date, right? I
Right.
said, we didn't wanna set dates, but we should be doing it in October.
But this has been in planning for a year now.
Well over that.
Yeah?
Oh,
I mean,
Over a year.
I asked for that appropriation, I think, 2 years ago on an article.
Right.
So do we still have the money encumbered? We have.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
But it's
So-
been a while.
So I don't wanna, I'm just asking the question, right? So it seems to me the big culprits that you see on the side of the road are the TVs.
Yeah, we have some
Right.
TVs out there. I've
TVs and mattresses, right? Those are the
mattresses,
two
and I've seen a
biggies.
few couches. So I just wanna say to the residents, I'm gonna put this on the website. I think Julie's gonna work with myself and the building inspector to put something in a reverse 911 call, hopefully to go out this week. We need those items pulled back in. They have 3 choices. They can pull everything back in, you know, store it, put it in their garage, wherever they need to, hold it till the spring. Second choice is we have a recycling center at 700 Middle Road. Every item that's out there can be taken there. Unfortunately, it does cost to get rid of it. They would have to go pay the collector's office or the DPW ahead of time. We have a form to fill out. You take that to the recycling center on Friday or Saturday from 8 to 2:30. I know that we talked about, you said the offices are open 10 to 1. DPW is open 8 to 4 Monday through Friday. If anybody wants to pay to get rid of an item anytime during those hours, call our office. We'll go down to the parking lot. We'll get the form to you. We'll take your payment so you can take it on Friday.
So let me ask you this. Again, I'm just, and I should probably think out loud off camera, but if we're not able to provide the bulky item pickup, and if the big culprits are the TVs and mattresses, and you do have to pay for that, I mean, could we consider a one-day, you bring your, because some people might not have the ability to come to town hall, you know, to get that ticket, that already make that transaction, or maybe just forgive that charge for one day. We've already got money set aside, and, you know.
That will take away from our money from April.
Right.
And what's the cost of a TV right now?
$30.
Depending on the size of the TV, it's anywhere from 15 to 30.
15 to 30?
Mhm.
You know, or making a point, I don't know, figure out a way to allow people, or rather than.
David, the DPW, now that we're open 8 to 4,
Yeah, that's fine.
I work in the office with Ann. We take opposite lunches. We are literally, somebody's there 8 to 4,
Okay.
Monday through Friday.
And that's
We
fine.
The
call our
concern,
office
the
and go from
concern
there.
about doing something like that, my concern is once people find that out, there'll be more people that take their crap and throw it out as a heavy pickup day.
What do you mean?
No, what I'm saying
Bring
is
it-
like,
bring it
just
to-
bring it to the facility, like, you gotta bring, so if you got a
Oh,
TV,
oh, yeah.
you pick up your TV,
Bring
and
it
you
there.
just go and drop it off
You just pick a
on that Saturday.
Right.
On that, we pick a Saturday, you just go, you don't have to worry about,
Everything is free that day. is what I'm
everything's
saying.
at free that day, just to give the residents something, right? Cut out one more trip to town hall, right, we just talked about that, you know,
Yeah.
just a thought, again, we can, I hate to say that
I
out
know,
loud,
yeah, right.
but if we, it's one day,
Let's talk about it. I'm gonna ask for the DPW on the next agenda. We got some things to talk about.
Okay.
So in 2 weeks, we could do something. Besides Dan, Dan's pretty flooded with his schedule. And I know that Selectmen Won's talking about a Saturday, I like it. But let's figure out what that is.
just 2 items,
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think that Dan would just.
Or
make
even the
sure-
TVs, if it's not mattresses, that's fine, but I think TVs break down, like, you talk about things that, planned obsolescence, every 2 years the TVs break down, and that's the thing people just don't know what to do with,
Right.
and they would love to be able to just get rid of,
Mhm.
Kathy, you were gonna say there are 3 things people could do, and you
Yeah,
didn't say
the
the
third
last
thing
one.
is, those people who cannot bring it to the recycling center, like older people or people that just don't have trucks or anything available, Waste Management does pick up. They charge $28 an item. You call them, you pay them directly with a credit card on the phone, and they'll tell you exactly what day they'll be there, and they'll come and take it for you.
That's good to know too, I mean, that's.
Right.
So those 3 things are the options we have out there right now. If the select board would love to give them a free day, then we can absolutely do that. That's
So,
fine.
I don't know if people can really hear you that well. So waste management.
Sorry, I like my mask.
Waste management, I like it too. And normally I'm always wearing one, but somebody's gonna talk and I'm the chairman, so I guess it's my job. Waste management, for all of you people at home, they charge $28, doesn't matter the item, how big or small,
Correct.
one item,
Mhm.
you call directly, the resident can call directly to Waste Management
Mhm. Yes.
and let them know their address and tell them what the item is, and they give a credit card number, and they'll pick up that item on their garbage day or any day?
No, Waste Management will tell them the day they're picking up because they
Okay.
have a different truck that comes out just for
Okay.
those items.
Okay,
That will be on the website as well. All this information will be on our website,
okay.
okay?
And we'll try to set something up for the heavy pickup in the spring.
Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Fingers crossed.
Right, but we got the paving machine for, 3 more weeks or 2.5 more weeks.
Yeah, Mr. Menard's very busy out there right now. He's trying to finish it.
Selectmen won't ask.
Doing a great job down there.
They are doing a
Isn't
wonderful
it
job.
awesome?
They
That
are.
project
Really nice.
down at the water park's
Yeah.
coming out really good. I was there today, it's really awesome, so.
Yeah, I went down and I've been taking
Really coming
pictures.
out, really
We do
coming
have
out
on our
good.
website, what pictures of them doing this work in process, so if anybody wants to see.
Did you not post the one of them sitting down eating lunch?
I will not post that.
Kathy, is the town still selling loam?
It is, yes, we will be selling loam. I haven't put that in the website yet.
We don't have much left.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
and
afraid
Dan's
that,
using a bunch of it down there and other
He
places. We did Mason and Marion, we're using a bunch down there, so there's
And-
some.
right, and
But-
the word of mouth and being on the camera last time Mr. Menard talked about it, we have sold a lot of it. So I haven't put it on the website knowing that that was gonna happen. When we have more in stock, I'll put it on the website.
Yeah,
Very good.
after we do another grinding. Thanks, Kath.
Thank you, have a good night.
Keep up the
Thank
good
you,
work.
Kim.
Town Administrator's Report, Ms. Hewitt.
Okay, I just have a couple quick things. The first one, we got notice from the fire chief, the Acushnet Firefighters Association and the Acushnet Police Officers Association have decided not to hold the annual Halloween parade this year. And so they just wanted to give that update to you, to share with the community. Obviously, it falls on the list of all the things that are being canceled, but they had to do it. The second thing, the senior center sent over 2 things. The first is just an update from Heather Sylvia for the seniors for transportation for early voting. She's going to provide transportation on Thursday, October 22nd, starting at 8:30 a.m. Passengers will have to call in advance for a reservation, wear masks the entire time, and be screened for a fever. But she'll go over, you know, whatever other information you need when you call to schedule. So if anyone needs transportation for early voting, call the Council on Aging and they'll be able to set that up with you for Thursday, October 22nd, starting at 8:30 a.m. And the last thing I have from the COA, we received this great letter from a lot of members of the Council on Aging. It's a letter of thanks to the Board of Selectmen and the Acushnet Building Department for the beautiful pavilion that was constructed at the Council on Aging. They wrote, because of your proactive approach, we are now able to safely socialize with friends and participate in different classes. Acushnet always gives 110% when supporting the health and wellness of its seniors, and this is just another example. And as you can see from the letter, there are many signatures on here. It was a really nice thing to thank you for, and the pavilion was CARES money, so the Board of Selectmen was really great in allowing that.
It was really nice of the seniors to do that.
So nice.
The people, folks that use that facility.
That's all I
That's
have.
what keeps me going. Right?
We'll be there soon.
Nice gestures like that makes you feel good once in a while.
Absolutely.
About everything, all the hard work you put into doing what you do. Anything else, Ms. Eva?
That's all I have.
We're holding off on that.
Yeah.
All right, good enough. The next Selectmen's meeting is scheduled currently for October 20th at 4 p.m. We have an executive session scheduled on the general law, chapter A, subsection 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation. P.J. Keating, if an open meeting will have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares, and the board will not return to public session. Is there a motion to go into executive session? Roll call vote. Selectman Warnow.
Yes.
Mr. DeRoche.
Yes.
And I am a yes. We are now in executive session.